Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Merkava Mk.3 Raam Segol. Forgive me if I mispronounce that, though of course I will be referring to it as the Raam Segol. This is a currently 11.0 BR pack premium medium/main battle tank in the Israeli Ground Forces tech tree. The pack that it comes in currently costs $69.99 USD when not on sale, and includes 2,500 Golden Eagles, 20 days of premium time, and of course, the Raam Segol. With that said, in this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about this tank, including its stats, how it plays, I'll go over its strengths and weaknesses, I'll give it some scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation, and if I feel this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. With that said, if you like this kind of video, please consider subscribing, but without further ado, let's get into it. Now with that said, to start, I'll place its stat card here on the side of the screen. Important things to note are its armament, number of smoke grenades, and its power to weight ratio. Now for how it plays. Though proper heavy tanks don't exist in War Thunder at high tier, the Raam Segol is about as close as you can get to one at this BR, favoring incredible protection and armament over speed, though still of course not being all that slow. The Raam Segol can take punishment and hash it out all the same. It is important to note that the Raam Segol is basically a Merkava Mk.3, but with optional mine protection, more smoke grenades, and an APS that is for looks only, but I'll go over its APS a little bit more later. Now with its excellent 120mm MG251 cannon and M322 APF SDS with 589mm of armor pen at max, this vehicle can pen through almost anywhere on any tank that it faces with relative ease. This amount of armor pen is among the most in game as of current for a premium tank. Combined with this are the very good, though not excellent, gunner's optics with up to 12 times zoom, and you can play the Raam Segol as a sniper. Unfortunately, it only has access to Gen 1 thermals, so this may be difficult depending on how you play and depending on the map that you're in. Even more, the Raam Segol has access to 3 LMGs, of which 2 are mounted on top of the turret, and a single 50 cal HMG, of which is mounted on top of the cannon breech. This means that the Raam Segol has tremendous capability in destroying both lightly armored ground vehicles and aircraft, as this essentially has the same secondary firepower as a low BR SPAA. Better still, the armor on the Raam Segol, while not perfect, is likely better than all other tanks of equal or lower BR, even though it lacks ERA entirely. It even has a laser warning receiver that helps when determining where enemies are in relation to you, if of course they use their laser rangefinder on you. Even more, the 58 smoke grenades will help to conceal you should you come under fire from enemies, while the armor itself is shaped so weirdly that it helps with survivability. In fact, in my experience, all of the different angles and shapes on the Raam Segol function almost like a dazzle camo pattern from ships a few decades ago. Because of that, it can be difficult to accurately pinpoint a known weak spot, especially on the turret. Unfortunately, despite all of its positives, the Raam Segol is slower than most other MBTs at this BR, though not enough to really limit your gameplay options unless you're trying to be the first person to cap a base in a match for whatever reason. With all of what I said being considered, the best roles for the Raam Segol are going to be that of frontliner, sniper, brawler, though only if you can get your reload to be quick enough, and possibly even a flanker if you see an opening where you can do so. In all, the Raam Segol is a very tanky tank that can do almost anything that you want if you don't mind doing it a little bit slowly. Now with all that said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. The Raam Segol has excellent composite armor thickness and layout, which makes it very difficult to destroy. Second, this vehicle has 58 smoke grenades, which are among the most in War Thunder for a tank. Third, it features the powerful 120mm MG251 cannon and M322 APF SDS with 589mm of armor pen at max. Fourth, this vehicle features 4 total MGs with a 50 cal HMG on top, which makes the Raam Segol extremely effective versus lightly armored vehicles and aircraft. Fifth, it features a very good but not excellent gunner's optic with 6 to 12 times zoom. For its 6th strength, the Raam Segol features time-fused HE shells for taking out targets that are behind cover and of course some aircraft. 7th, it features a good reverse speed of 25.9 km per hour. For its 8th strength, it also has fireproof ammo racks that, in my experience at least, feel like they result in far fewer ammo rack detonations than you would get with a lot of other vehicles. Beyond this, the Raam Segol features a very strange crew layout that improves survivability, as it makes it so that a straight shot through the front is much less likely to kill all crew members than with similar BR tanks. For its 10th strength, this vehicle features a laser warning receiver. Oddly enough, though the real-life tank has an active protection system, the Raam Segol in War Thunder just uses this laser warning receiver in lieu of it, as the real-life variant would orient the turret towards the enemy projectile projectile and automatically fire smoke grenades, which Gaijin felt would take away player control, understandably so. And finally, we have premium RP and SL bonuses. Now for its weaknesses. While not slow per se, the Raam Segol isn't as fast as most similar BR MBTs and is thus at a disadvantage in terms of mobility. This changes a little, however, when going uphill, as the Merkava will be bogged down by its mediocre power to weight ratio more than essentially all other MBTs. Second, it only has Gen 1 thermals, which are a disadvantage at this BR, as many tanks that it will face will have either Gen 2 or Gen 3 thermals. Third, while it has a commander sight, it only has night vision and regular optics, which means no thermals. Fourth, while they aren't technically weaknesses, many features of the Raam Segol are average or slightly below average, such as its turret traverse rate, reload rate, and cannon depression of only -7 degrees. And finally, this is a fairly large tank and may be easier to spot and hit compared to other vehicles. It's not gigantic, but it is just a little taller and wider compared to most similar BR MBTs. Now with all that said, let's get into how I score this vehicle, and first for armament, I give it a 7.75 out of 10. The Raam Segol is loaded to the brim with armament. Between its excellent 120mm cannon and ammo options, 4 total MGs, and good gunner's optics, it can go toe-to-toe with any tank that it will fight on at least equal grounds. Unfortunately, it only has Gen 1 thermals, a myth turret reverse rate, and a middling cannon depression of -7 degrees. Still, despite these flaws, the Raam Segol has an excellent armament that might not be matched by any other premium tank currently in game. For mobility, I give it a 4 out of 10, though I kinda want to give it a 3.75. It isn't outright bad, but it's not good either, at least relative to other MBTs around this BR. In my experience, it doesn't actively harm efforts to perform any specific roles in a match, outside of arguably base capping at the beginning of a match, but that's about it. Interestingly, you can remove the mine protection from the mods menu and save about 3 tons, which is around 5% of the weight of this vehicle when you first unlock it. That's what I've been doing, so all the gameplay in this video has been without that mine plate. At least for now, such protection really doesn't do anything to assist in survivability, and is thus far better if you remove it, as you gain a better power to weight ratio again when doing so. If you keep mine protection on, however, I'd probably notch it down by about a quarter of a point in this category. At least the reverse speed is fairly good at 25.9 kilometers per hour, and is actually quick to accelerate to it. Overall though, the Raam Segol is not outright slow, but is decidedly below average. Now for survivability, I give it a 9 out of 10. To let you guys know, my scores for all vehicles in my reviews are based on how I rate vehicles relative to similar vehicles, as well as those that I might face in a match. With that context out of the way, the Raam Segol is not invincible by any means, but it is easily one of the most survivable tanks in War Thunder, regardless of BR. The amount of armor that you could view on this vehicle in the hangar via the armor viewer is extremely deceptive, as the Raam Segol in practice protects against far more than it lets on. This is partially due to the odd shaping of the armor, but also due to the layout of the tank. The huge engine up front protects against a large amount of damage, while the interior protects against fragmentation in some instances. The heavily angled shaping of the composite armor, mixed with what seems to be random edges all along the front of the tank, means that the Raam Segol is a very difficult tank to pinpoint a good hit on. Combine this with an armored ammo rack, 58 total smoke grenades, a laser warning receiver, and much more, and you have what is likely the most survivable tank in-game as of current, at least insofar as premiums are concerned. Really, this might only be possibly outmatched by later variants of the Merkava. Make no mistake, the Raam Segol is still killable in one hit, as are all vehicles in-game, but the total collaborative effort between the aforementioned armor thickness and composition, armor shaping, smoke grenades, laser warning receiver, and much more make the Raam Segol nearly impervious to most autocannons, and even ATGMs from the front and possibly even the rear, at least in my experience, and a difficult kill for most MBTs. Now overall, I give this a 7 out of 10. Put simply, while not perfectly well balanced as the Raam Segol favors survivability and armament over speed, it still has plenty of everything, speed included, to be dominant at this BR. It has no obvious weak spots insofar as its traits are concerned, and is as close to being a mobile bunker as you can get around this BR. It can easily blast through enemies with its extremely powerful APF SDS, and can even go after aircraft with its huge amount of MGs. The Raam Segol might very well be one of the best high-tier premium tanks in-game. Now with that said, do I recommend purchasing this vehicle? Yes, I do, though of course with some caveats. For one, it costs a ton for a digital vehicle and its accompanying bonuses, at least in my opinion. $69.99 USD is a lot to stomach, and as such, I'd probably only give it a recommendation to purchase it while on sale. Though if it were $59.99 for the starting price, I'd give it a more general recommendation. Second, the Israeli ground tech tree is much smaller than the tech trees of other nations, and as such, this vehicle doesn't have as many vehicles that you can grind out with it. Simply put, the amount of vehicles that you can grind per dollar spent on the Raam Segol is probably going to be lower than any other premium in-game, sans some other high BR Israeli premiums. It's just a tough sale that, while this vehicle is obviously extremely good as I mentioned before, the value proposition for $69.99 USD in a limited tech tree makes it a tough sale. Otherwise, the tank itself receives my Tankenstein seal of approval, and is excellent in many ways, but again, be aware of how expensive it is before jumping off to buy it. Now with that said, thank you all so much for watching. If you don't mind, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing if you enjoyed this video and you want more content like it. Let me know what you think about the Raam Segol and of course this review in general in the comments below. Either way, thanks again. I'll see you all on the other side. Take care everyone.